But you know what? That's kind of like an unfair question because that's true in any sport.
Mm-hmm. Question that came in a few times was we're talking a lot about pain relief and injuries and whatnot. The questions come up a bunch of, can you compete at a high level in powerlifting and not be all jacked up?
It's I guess in the realm of possibility, it is possible to have the best genetics, to have a really good training program, and be lucky, but you're going to get hurt.
For longevity, no.
Mm-hmm.
I would say no. If you're young, say you mature fast in the sport, and there's people it happens, right?
Yeah.
18, 25 probably can, do real well. Then if you get out young,
yeah.
But that longevity, man, the wear and tear, it's gonna get you. But you know what? That's kind of like an unfair question because that's true in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
Show me one person in the NFL that's not scathed.
All right.
When you're talking about competing at a national level and
Mm-hmm.
a high level, if you were to compare sports across means, that is the same as the caliber of you're dealing with people that are ranked in the top 10, 15%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, and they said successful, right? They had a high level, like competing at the highest level of the sport.
Yeah, but that's all relative. Like a high level to someone might be a 500-pound squat. A high level might be a 1,500-pound squat. They're trying for, in 10 years from now or something.
I've said this before. The fact of the matter is the time when you decide to compete in anything is about the same time you decided that competing was more important than health.
Exactly.
I think
right. So if that's not the case, then you're going to recreationally participate.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still do recreational meets or whatever you want to call it, or you can play recreational soccer or whatever it is. That's not the same as making that other decision.
Going all in.
It is kind of, right? And if you're going to make that decision to go all in, are you really willing to make the decision to go all in? Because if you're not, maybe you want to just recreationally do that.
And what's funny is I see more recreational lifters for their back than by far anyone that's competitive, because what do? I like deadlifting. I learned how to deadlift 3 weeks ago. I was trying to pull 405. It got out in front of me, and I felt a pop. I was squatting. I was feeling good. I got a little forward. I felt a pop. That's literally like what I get 5-6 times a week, like that exact thing. I'm not a competitive lifter, but I love doing the lifts.
That's the majority.
Mm-hmm.
By far, that's the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of that, a competitive lifter wouldn't put themselves in a position for that to happen.
Right.
Meets 16 weeks out.
Yeah.
I can't have this. And any lifter, I'm not going to say any, but I would say the vast majority of know what you're talking about with the pop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It would pretty much, I can say we've all had it, right? You thought, oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And you can shake it off, but it's a couple weeks.
Yeah.
At best, it's a couple weeks. At best, maybe a few days. But still, you're going to learn from that one little pop, like, oh, shit. If I'm going to squat this Friday, I need to really be conscious about what I'm doing. And then actually for some lifters, it can be the best thing to happen early because they're going to refocus on some of the things that you showed today. Like, how do I get up? How do I get out of bed? How do I get off a chair? How do I do that? And these things, people still don't think we're serious when we talk about these things.
I know.
And it's ridiculous because they're tearing their backs apart doing that far more than they are squatting or deadlifting or anything.
They're locked in when they're squatting and deadlifting.
Yeah.
They're locked in and stiff. But they're not when they, reach down to grab their belt or to unload the bar. They take the time off, like mentally, and they check out. And that's cumulative. The lifting, the loading, the unloading, the way you're treating your body before you went to the gym, after the gym. It's all cumulative with that, especially concerning the spine. The next thing you know, it happens suddenly when it's been happening for the last 5 years. You just haven't paid attention to it.
If you could go back to your 16's probably too young, to your, when was the first nationals you did? Was it the WPO? That was like you had to qualify for it.
Yeah, the first senior nationals did was 04 in Baton Rouge.
If you could go back to Brian Carroll of 03 to give him powerlifting advice, what would you say? So you're already through the teenage years. You're at this point you're committed, right, to the sport moving forward.
21.
Yeah. So now you're looking back, right? Now, granted, a lot of the things you've learned through the mistakes, so I get all that. I get that. But what would be some takeaways that you would want to tell him that you wish you would have known then?
Believe in yourself. Know that your current, you have more ability than you believe you do. Take your time and don't rush, and prepare for the long haul. Don't think about the next 6 months or 2 years. Think about the next 5 years in chunks at a time. And if I would have done that and known that, it's interesting because if you'd have told me it would have took 21 years of competing to hit, my best squat ever. I mean, first of all, if you'd have told me I would have squatted 1,000 pounds, I probably would have been like, whatever, I'm not going to squat 1,000 pounds. So it's kind of hard to say, but the big thing is take your time, build the foundation, don't compete so much, and just enjoy the process. Because I was in a rush. The whole time I've been in a rush. Hurry up and compete. Hurry up and rest. When's the next meet cycle coming up? I need to beat those numbers. I mean, it was just completely obsessive for me for so long.
But isn't some of that necessary, though?
It is. It was completely necessary. And I still would have done it all. I still would have done everything, but I would have been a lot more patient and been a little more easy on myself about things. And I would have been a little bit more grateful, too. Grateful along the way and the pathway, and accepted the challenges as challenges instead of like the end of the world. Just mature. I wish I would have had a little bit more of a mature approach when I was, 20 years old or so. But that's not the way things work.
What is to those listening? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those listening that are in that position, though, it's the takeaway that I'm kind of seeing here is instead of thinking of where you want to be a year from now, think of where you want to be 4 years from now. Let's say a quadrennial, like Olympics. Olympic sports work on the quadrennials. Even high school football players are kind of working on the 3-year, cycle when they come in there, But if you work on that quadrennial, then it puts things a little easier to focus, and it shows you got a little more time than you think too, because you don't think you have the time.
Right.
So if it's you want whatever it is to be ranked top 10, whatever, it doesn't have to be next year.
Right.
Especially when you're just starting, even though you want it so bad. But if you really, here's the trick though: if you really want it so bad, once you put yourself in the position to make the highest probability of getting it, right? So is that highest probability of getting it going to happen in 6 months or 4 years?
Right.
So it's a mind fuck, right? So I think that's the takeaway with that, because that creates that longevity. Because if you really, really love it, and this is probably any sport, any passion or whatever it is, 10 years goes by. And you don't even know it was 10 years.
Yeah.
Where at the same time, how many people come in and out of the sport within 2 or 3 years? Way, way, way more.
Yeah.
So the first thing I think is you got to figure out who you are. Are you going to be a person who's going to be around for just a few years? Because then I could probably have a conversation of, put the throttle down, rush and break everything, because you're not going to be around long.
Right.
But if you're going to be around, you don't want to be out before you have the potential to be your best. That's the tricky part.
And I mean, you see that with strongman. Like the most competitive strongmen in the world are in their late 40s.
I think there's a level of maturity to this. That there are outliers, right? So even in like the Olympia and the bodybuilding, it's getting younger again. It kind of like works in these weird waves. But for most of it, it's going to take a lot longer than people think it's going to take.